Hey, welcome! Today we're going to zoom in on a single, really powerful letter. Let's break down what the Q in LGBTQ+ actually means.
So let's just jump right in. You see the acronym LGBTQ+ all the time, right? But have you ever stopped and really wondered what exactly is that Q doing there? Well, if you have, you are definitely not alone. It's a great question, and it turns out there's a two-part answer.
You see, the Q can stand for either queer or questioning. One is this big, broad umbrella term for an identity, while the other describes the very human process of just exploring that identity. And they are both so important. So let's take a look at each one.
All right, first up, let's tackle the first one. Let's talk about queer.
So today, a lot of people embrace queer as this really big, inclusive umbrella term. It creates space for identities that kind of fall outside the more traditional boxes for sexuality and gender. You know, someone might identify as queer because other labels like gay or lesbian or bisexual just don't feel like they tell the whole story. It can feel more flexible, more authentic. Now, it's absolutely crucial to understand. This word has a really complicated and painful history. For a long time, queer was thrown around as a slur. It was a weapon, designed to hurt and push LGBTQ+ people to the margins. That history is real, and for some people, that word still carries a lot of that pain.
But here's the thing about language. It can change, it can evolve. And for so many people, especially younger folks, the word queer has been totally reclaimed. It was this deliberate choice to take a word that was meant to cause harm and flip it into this powerful symbol of who they are, of their community.
So, what's the bottom line here? It's actually really simple. The key is to always use the word respectfully, and, this is the most important part, only for people who actually choose it for themselves. At the end of the day, identity is personal. Okay, so that's queer. But that's only half the story, right? Let's move on to the second meaning. The Q can also stand for questioning.
Questioning is all about that process of exploring and figuring out your own sexual orientation or gender identity, or maybe both. It's like giving yourself the space and the permission to not have all the answers right away. It's a reminder that figuring yourself out isn't always some big aha moment.
Yeah, discovering who you really are isn't some checklist, right? It's a journey. It involves exploring who you are, taking time to just think and reflect, and slowly getting to a place of deeper self-understanding. It's your own personal process, and there's definitely no finish line.
And this is so important to hear. Being in that questioning phase is a completely valid part of the journey. It does not mean someone is confused or lost. Nope. It just means they're taking the time they need to get to know themselves authentically on their own terms.
So, okay, we've got queer and we've got questioning. But let's zoom out for a second. Why does this one little letter matter so much? Why is it such a big deal for the whole community? Well, it matters because that Q really celebrates the idea that identity isn't always simple. It's not always set in stone. It can be fluid. It can be complex. It's also a way to officially recognize all those experiences that don't fit perfectly into another category. And maybe most importantly, it makes room for people no matter where they are on their journey, whether they've known who they are for years or they're just starting to figure it all out. And all of this really boils down to one simple but incredibly powerful idea: respecting personal identity.
Here's the big takeaway from all of this. Identity is personal. That's it. Nobody else gets to decide what labels a person uses or how they see themselves, period.
So how do we actually put that into practice? Well, respecting people's identities, their names, their pronouns, it's honestly one of the simplest but most profound ways you can show support for the community. It's like a fundamental act of saying, I see you. And that's a huge step in building a world where everyone feels valued for exactly who they are.
So I'll just leave you with this thought. It's kind of amazing, isn't it? How can one tiny letter teach us so much about being inclusive, about personal journeys, and, at the end of the day, about simple human respect?